At this time, everyone will be available for some short one-on-ones at the end of the press conference. So what I'd like to do is direct our questions right now for our two head coaches. John?
Yeah, it seems like it's a prerequisite to play Marshall in overtime and beat them to be the CUSA participant. How did the regular season games against the Power 5 conferences help you win that game against Marshall?
I'm not sure playing Alabama and Illinois and Vanderbilt had anything to do with the Marshall game. I think just the resiliency, the competitive spirit of our football team throughout the course of the year, how we played every game, gave us the opportunity to beat Marshall. Marshall was a good football team, and they were 8-1 when we played them. And I don't look back and think that playing Alabama or playing this team or the Power 5 teams had anything to do with winning that game.
Coach, talk about the dynamic of coaching your son as the quarterback and how he's an extension of you and how he helps you in terms of leadership on and off the field.
Yeah, Brent has had a really good year this year. He's a pleasure to coach. He's an outstanding young man. If you came to our practices, come to our game, you would not know he's my son if you didn't already know that. Probably harder on him than anybody on that team. And I said last night, as good as he has been statistically this year, the intangibles that he brings to our team from a leadership standpoint, a toughness standpoint, an energy and passion standpoint, have been more impressive and been more critical to our team than what he's done statistically. He's had a really good year.
Question for Coach Fleck. Wide receiver Daniel Braverman comes into the game second in the country in reception. What do you think are some of the keys for his success this season?
Well, I think when your best players are your hardest workers, you start to have a culture. And that's very similar with Daniel and Corey. They're two receivers with 1,200 plus yards. They both have either 12 touchdowns or 11 touchdowns, both over 80 catches. Daniel's with 102. And Corey's with 82, but I think they're two of the top receivers in the country, as well as Coach Ricks. You really have four of the most dynamic players in the country playing in your game, and I think everybody's in for a treat. But it's because of their work ethic. You know, both of those players are our hardest workers on our team, and if you have to try to stimulate really good players to play well and to work, you've got a problem. We don't have that problem. You know, they're the two hardest workers we have, and I'm very proud of their work and their efforts and what they've been able to accomplish this year. And it's a direct reflection of their work, because we are a balanced offense. We throw the ball 50% of the time, we run the ball 50% of the time. So for us, you know, we're not throwing it 90 times a game where they're going to have 100 catches. They've got to be able to earn those catches and to get open. So I'm really proud of those two. They're fine human beings. I think you're really going to enjoy being around those guys. They got incredible personalities, and they're better people than they are players.
Here I come behind with a non-football question for both Coach Stockstile and Coach Fleck. Let's talk a little bit about how the players are feeling about this, what we can expect as far as numbers that both teams are bringing, and if we can expect any families to travel down. What are the fans saying about this opportunity for you all to come down to the Bahamas?
Well, I don't think it's very hard to convince your family members to come to the Bahamas. There's a lot of other places you go to a bowl game where you sit there and go, well, do I really want to go out there? This is not one of those places. I know this. We have a video released of when we actually told our players that we were actually coming to the Popeyes Bahamas Bowl, and they went absolutely crazy. So I think they're like little kids in a candy store. They cannot wait to be here. Practices are a lot more exciting when you're coming to the Bahamas. There's a big light at the end of the tunnel. You know, you don't have to deal with snow. You don't have to deal with those things, as everyone talked about with the flip-flops. And now they do have to practice, and they do have to have pads on. We're not going to practice in the flip-flops, which someone would have asked. But I think that we will have a great turnout. We really will. We have a very close-knit family. We decided to recruit a 6-hour radius around Kalamazoo, Michigan, around the Midwest when we got there for this particular reason. We want not only mom and dad, but brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, teachers, family members, friends, to show support no matter where they go. And again, it doesn't take much convincing to tell people that we're heading to the Bahamas and would you like to come?
I guess the easiest way for me to answer that question, I have a daughter, Emily, who's a freshman in college, and normally she asks, can I get sideline passes, 4 or 5 sideline passes for her friends. She asked for how many seats can she get on the plane to bring her friends. So we're extremely excited to be here, and just, you know, this is a wonderful opportunity. 90%, 95% of our players, this may be the only time they have the opportunity to leave the country and to come to the Bahamas. So just the appreciation and how humble that we are and honored to be here. Our players are really looking forward to it. We finished up exams yesterday, today, and you know, so our families, our fans, our coaches' kids, they're extremely just appreciative to be able to come here and experience the hospitality of the Bahamas. So we're looking forward to it.
Sure. Coach Fleck, we know that the legacy for seniors is the most important thing when they finish college football. Going for the first bowl win in program history, how are the players taking it?
Well, I think they really want to make it happen. You know, I think you're going to have both seniors on both sides of the teams. You're going to have them really wanting to end their career on a high note. You know, we don't have many seniors. We got 9 seniors that actually play. But one thing I'll say about them, they've been through the ups and downs of this program. A lot of them were 7-5, then they went 4-8, then 1-11, and then last year they went 8-5, and now they're back up to another bowl game. So they've seen the whole spectrum of where our culture is headed. But I think to top it off for them would be very beneficial for their entire life. That no matter what happens to you in your life, good or bad, if you just continue to stay the course and keep your oar in the water, things are going to happen for you that are positive. And I think that's the biggest lesson they can learn as they move forward. And they've been very dynamic for us. There's only 9 of them really left when they really had a class of 25. And we have a sign in our building, as Bo Schembechler had at Michigan, too, those who stay will be champions. And 2 years ago, that looked really, really far in the distance, being 1-11. But what they were able to do when they just they buckled down and continued to lead and stay the course, and they saw a lot of people leave the program, but they stayed. And the ones that stayed, that's very difficult to do with a new culture change. That's very, very difficult, and I'm really proud of them. And I'm even proud of our younger kids to be able to follow them, you know. And we played 18 freshmen last year, and we've got one of the younger teams in the country, and you know, it's great for them to be able to see that type of leadership from the seniors that are still on this football team.
Question for Coach Stockstill. Your team comes in winning 5 of its last 6 games after starting off 2-4. What do you think is the catalyst for the turnaround this season?
Just the persistence and the positive attitude, the resiliency that teams have to show, the competitive spirit that you have to play with, that you have to practice with each and every day. You finish what you start. You're not graded at midterm. You don't get a final grade at midterm. And these guys just stayed positive. We lost. We had some tough, heartbreaking, gut-wrenching losses, you know, there in the middle of the season. And just proud of the leadership and the mental toughness that our team showed throughout the course of this season. You ignore the noise. You don't listen to what people say on the outside. You stay committed and focused on what you can control, and that's what this team did. And we were fortunate enough to, you know, to close out the season and, you know, winning 4 in a row. So it just goes back to the leadership and the resiliency, the persistence of your football team.
Yesterday, it was Richie James was a USA Today All-American. He made the team. How is it that a freshman coming in can make such an impact to the team?
He's a good player. Obviously, when individuals get recognition, it's not just because of them. He's got good people around him. He's a very humble young man. He's an extremely hard worker, and just, you know, he's worked hard since he's been in our program, and you know, we had a lot of good people around him to help him achieve that. But obviously, he's a good player, and so it's a great honor for him, but he'll be the first one to tell you he didn't do it by himself. So it's a great individual honor, but he's a good football player.
Coach Fleck, we talked a lot about offenses for both teams. Can you talk about how a player like Darius Phillips can impact the game, not just on special teams, but defensively as well?
You know, Darius is one of those young men that last year we had him at wide receiver, and he was really our third receiver and one of the fastest kids on our football team, one of the toughest kids on our football team. And, you know, we had some, when you go through a culture change, last year we only had 64 kids on scholarship. We were 21 less than everybody else just by changing the entire culture. And then we finally have 85 scholarships this year, but we were a little thin at the cornerback position. And Darius Phillips is he's an all Mid-American Conference defensive back, and then he's an all Mid-American Conference kick returner. He took the opening, second kickoff really against Michigan State. We played him at the beginning of the year for a touchdown, and consistently did that throughout the entire year. And he's one of those things, one of those guys that can really change a game at any point. And I think both teams have those types of players. And I think when people want to look at the offense and defense, I think, special teams gets lost in there, but not for these two programs. You watch them play special. The first thing we did when we watched Coach Rick's football team is we put on the kickoff team. That's what I like to watch. Some people like to watch field goal block. I like to watch kickoff team. I mean, that is a tough job to run down on kickoff, bust wedge, do things like that. And I think you're in for a treat to watch these special teams play. And Darius Phillips is one of those guys. And he's been a very unique story. And for us, he's just really been a very influential player, especially on our defensive side of the ball, but as a kick returner as well.